today. We'll see you in the Division 1 finals. Good night. I mean, that was a long weekend of casting, mate. But to be honest, I think we smashed it. I'm pretty happy with how Beacon went. How did you feel?
Yeah, do you know what, mate? We got some good reps in. I think the new style we've been working with has been good. And you know what? I'm actually quite happy with how all the games went. All the teams now, we have our top 8. So I'm excited to see exactly what Div 1 is going to look like when we get to it.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. I got to shoot off, though. I got Polaris, what is it, tomorrow or Monday? So I got to make sure I get all my prep in for that as well. I know you've been wanting to do the cold open for a while. I mean, do you think you could do that for me? Would that work?
Oh, mate, 100%. Like, I've been asking for me to do it, like, to take some workload off you. So definitely, let me do it.
Yeah, I can trust you to get it done?
100%, 100%. Do not doubt it. Do not doubt it.
Okay, all right. Cheers, mate. I'll catch you tomorrow.
I'm going to do, man.
Oh, Spawn, thank you so much. Cheers.
Mate, you've been phoning me all morning. I've just got up. What is it?
Did you get the cold open sorted? I'm ready for the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to the Scoreboard halftime special. Unfortunately, neither myself or Cairo are going to be around this Tuesday, so we recorded this one for you ahead of time, nice and early, previewing the matches that we've got coming up on the Monday and Tuesday in Polaris. As well as that, we're going to be going through our typical clip of the week and also team of the split so far, the half split. This is why it's called the halftime show. I'm happy to be bringing it to you all. We're usually live on Tuesdays, so make sure to go ahead and check it out on the Scoreboard. We do cold opens like the silly one you saw earlier, and we'll be doing a whole lot more of that as well. Cairo, firstly, it's great to have you back. It's a bit different recording this ahead of time, but how are you feeling about these week's games?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm excited about this week's games. Obviously, I'm a bit gutted that we won't be around on Tuesday to actually do a bit of casting and be involved. But at the same time, it's good to kind of prepare for these games coming up because, let's be honest, Hazza, these are some of the biggest of the split.
Yeah, they definitely are. The first one that we're going to be talking about is Petits Bouffons versus VAMONOS. This is a repeat of the Beacon Div 1 finals matchup that we saw, both of the teams getting promoted in the previous split. But I think it's fair to say that Petits Bouffons have had a better run-in since then. VAMONOS completely disassembling their previous roster and now trying to get through the split and actually pick up a win because the only one that they have so far is that forfeit from HazzaJC.
Yeah, it's been really tough for VAMONOS so far. Obviously, a few of the players has left and went to other regions, but now this roster has to do with what they have. And let's be honest, Hazza, there is a lot of good up-and-coming talent within it. They just haven't got that monkey off the back in terms of a win yet.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the mental factor is at play. We saw them have a good start against FOKUS last week, and against a team like Petits Bouffons, getting off to a decent start is going to be really important. We've seen LPB in the past have a really strong opener to their Lotus, one which they ran away with in a previous game that we saw against Coalesce, the fixture that they've just come out of with a win. So two teams on different trajectories as well. You've got to be considering the fact that LPB, they came out of the regular split, the #1 team seeded into playoffs before capitulating. So the expectations are certainly there for them. We spoke with Matty in our post-match interview on the Scoreboard last time around. Another reason to be tuning in, of course, for the extra bonus content that you're going to be getting as well as the casted matches. And he was saying that, yeah, they have these decent fundamentals. It's just about building off the back of these individuals that you have and setting the team up for success.
100%. And the only loss that LPB have so far is towards one of those two top teams that we'll be talking about later on. So, yeah, there is plenty for this LPB. No, sorry, it was against WhoCars. I'm talking nonsense. But nonetheless, listen, LPB have a lot within the roster. They should be more than up with those top two teams, Apeks and FOKUS. It's just whether they can keep this momentum going. For them, this game might just feel like another one to kind of keep that momentum within the roster that they've had since that second game.
Yeah, for me, it's about LPB building on the groundwork that they've already set up with this roster. Coming into the split initially, they didn't have too much scrim time, too much practice time. But since then, there's been a lot done behind closed doors to really sew things together, especially after that playoff performance, which they're going to have been kicking themselves about. I think it's fair to say you definitely have the individuals, ex-VCT experience that people love to hammer home the point that you have players like Link, for example, in your roster and Rust that you can call to in those key moments. We definitely saw that at LAN at Insomnia, for example, but it's about taking that an extra step. And for VAMONOS, with the confidence not on their side, my prediction going into this game is going to be an LPB victory.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It has to be an LPB victory, especially for the playoff hopes, etc. I say playoff hopes is almost guaranteed at this point after this game, because then it ends up being a little mini league between LPB, Apeks, and FOKUS. That's going to be the most interesting one coming into the latter weeks. But as for this one, yeah, it has to be an LPB win.
Yeah, then moving into our second previewed game, that is going to be the biggest fixture, the highlight fixture, I think, of the regular season. Apeks versus FOKUS, those teams towards the upper end of the standings. Of course, for both of them, this one doesn't really carry as much weight as people like to sort of chalk it up to be, because when you think about it on paper, all they want to do is qualify for playoffs and then move forward. For Apeks, perhaps it is just about instilling that idea that they are the dominant de facto team that is to be progressing out of this region straight into Ascension. And then for FOKUS, there's a point to be proven here. The fact that they can be competitive, having only taken 2 maps off of this team previous.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know something, Hazza, on the back of that? I mean, Apeks seem to be, in this split specifically, a team that just cannot be beaten. The first time we've actually seen blood being drawn in the form of WhoCars winning out a map last week. Now moving in towards this one, FOKUS look to go one better and actually beat Apeks. I think there might be a little bit of limit testing there perhaps for FOKUS as well to see exactly what they can find out about Apeks. But I mean, as for their game plan, I mean, we don't know. That's all up to the roster.
Yeah, and that is something that we have to really emphasize here as well. For people who maybe haven't tuned too much into what's going on in Polaris and Northern Europe, I mean, Apeks have just been so dominant, a godly side, and to see them even lose that map against WhoCars on Icebox, something which they've looked pretty good on before, dispatching teams 13-0, as they have done multiple times. It was Coalesce, technically VAMONOS with the forfeit, HSD as well, a former playoff team which have now disbanded. I mean, they are such a strong team. Yet again, it calls back to those fundamentals, not necessarily revealing anything too complex in terms of set plays, but it is just the ability to trade off of one another, make brilliant mid-round calls and adaptations through players with such experience, such as Enzo, Mystic, for example. I mean, there are many, many layers to this team. And for FOKUS, you almost wonder whether in such a self-contained matchup, are they going to try and reinvent themselves almost, just to try and punish Apeks in some ways, and find those gaps, play away from what the ante perhaps looks like reading into this one, and there's expectations that have already been laid out.
I would have to disagree with that, Haz. I think FOKUS will be coming into this one wanting to play their own game. I mean, you talk about the experience on the Apeks roster. FOKUS have plenty of it themselves. I mean, your boy Lewis, Yugi, I mean, Waddle, there's other players as well that I've not mentioned, but the fact that these players all have experience in the upper echelons in Valorant, I mean, you cannot doubt them.
Yeah, 100% you cannot doubt them. And I fully agree with what you're saying as well. I think the point to be made, and the one that I was sort of trying to introduce there, is that against a team like Apeks, while yes, you have to sort of stick to what it is you want to do, not go back on your word and leave yourself exposed, it's really, really difficult to punish those mistakes that they make because of how well drilled they are. So the point being is, if there is any kind of way you can look to adapt what it is, the rigid setups that you usually have as a team, and I mean, we see this watching them every single week, for example, if there's anything you can do to just make the preparation for Apeks a little more difficult coming in, I think you've got to take out almost every advantage. But even at that point, this is the regular season, the playoffs still upcoming, a play-in spot for, you know, either of these teams if they're not coming out as that default victor in first place, currently first and second in the circuit point standings as well. But I mean, what a matchup to have on the cards, really.
Oh, yeah, it really is. I think it will be decided in the mid-rounding, though, to be honest, Hazza, between these two. I think FOKUS have already proven how good they actually are. But in terms of actually playing against the more upper half of the table, you think towards who they've actually played, Hazza, and there hasn't been that real test in terms of like a WhoCars or an Apeks. This is the first time that we're probably going to see that. I am going to go... Right, and this is going to be... I don't know if I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to go for 2-1 FOKUS.
Okay, fair enough. A choice out of left field. I believe that the talent predictions will be dictating that it is a clean sweep for Apeks, and I would like to put myself in that boat as well. I mean, FOKUS with an outside chance. Every single time they draw me in to pick for them, to root for them, but I mean, this time I do just have to go with Apeks. They look so dominant, and we mentioned before as well, FOKUS and Apeks, they've played different teams in terms of quality, and I think that Apeks currently as it stands are a level above playoffs. You know, ask me the question again and the answer might be different.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that like just moves me more towards FOKUS is that last WhoCars game. I mean, FOKUS played against WhoCars, managed to put them away 2-0. But when I say they haven't really been challenged, that's what I meant. Like, WhoCars were able to get a map off Apeks. I know that's kind of pulling off a little bit of like, I don't know what you call it, like storylines or whatever. It's not really really detailed and hard stuck stuff, but I think FOKUS really have a good mid-rounding, and that's what's going to push them over.
Yeah, I think the big thing to always take away about Polaris is that anyone is capable of beating anyone in the division, 100%. And it really does feel like that in Split 2 as well. I mean, to be fair, I think from the first split to the second split, there has been a little bit of a gap starting to build between Apeks and FOKUS, and then the other teams, the chasing pack, if you will. But amongst the rest of them, results could very easily be traded. Apeks, even in that game against WhoCars, showing that they are able to drop maps as well, and that they aren't as invincible as certainly the statistics and scoreline seem to be suggesting. So very exciting game. Make sure to keep to your screens for that one. I will be casting you through it at twitch.tv/ValorantLeague_NE. But with those first two previews wrapped up, let's move into the first of our exciting bonus segments that we like to show here before mentioning Tuesday's game. And that, of course, is going to be what is, in fact, our clips of the week.
Kentucky and Hudson Sports Center. Polaris takeover.
Thank you so much, HazzaJC. And of course, it wouldn't be clip of the week without myself, HudsonJC, and Kentucky casts in the NA Scoreboard studio. Kentucky, we've had a really nice weekend of beacon games in the grassroots scene. Some exciting clips to dissect. How are you feeling about this bunch?
You know, we've had plenty of awesome clips coming through, and you know what, especially from the lower beacon circuit. Obviously a couple of beacons, lighthouses, you could say, a little couple of stars
looking to the sky, something for the future perhaps. And let's not dwell on that for too long. We live in the present here after all. Let's bring out our TV, our HazzaJC HD TV, so we can get a look at these clips. The first of which that we're going to be seeing is this nice play out of Sember.
Already the alarm bot triggered and Sember swings off
gorgeous.
of that.
I think this was to finish up the net. This man coming straight through and popping up. Unlucky, not able to end up with the ace, but completely controlling that site all on their own.
Brilliantly done from Semburn. And usually in the live segment here as well, we would get your votes in the chat to decide who it is exactly you think wins out clip of the week. We'll be bringing the second one up now.
Fight for me,
looky
and that's
here,
exactly what's
it's going to be
happened.
Semburn again.
Yeah, we can't doubt this man. In towards a set, it's his map, ascending to a higher plane. You're wondering what the hell's going to happen here? Manages to find one, even though there's a crunch going on, and all the way through a smoke. It might be eco frags, but this man is an economy destroyer. Unreal from this man. Just unfortunate not able to get the ace once again.
Needing to take him off the field if you want to level that one out, in fact. And yes, Semburn on an absolute heater there against Formulation Gaming. I mean, very much so, just farming clips from them. Here's the third clip that we're going to have popping up for you, though. Something a little bit different. This one in the grand finals. Ticey with a nice 1v3 on the pistol.
Oh yeah, this was gorgeous from Ticey. They didn't deserve to get the kills, I'll be honest. In a 1 versus 3, this should be set up for a win. Maybe even get one because one of the players is low, and you're thinking to yourself, Entel Dart, how did that not scan him? Well, straight in, here he goes. He gets a Colette and one more player to find. You're thinking to yourself, this is got to be it. This is got to be it all over, and it is, but it's not actually for Ticey.
Yeah, the guy just runs it down. Really nice use of the recon there in the 1 versus 3, and I believe that is... Wait, no, what is this? Do you see that, Cairo? I think there's an extra clip in store. It's almost being forced down our throats. eMasters, they won again, and you know what that means?
Oh no, it's not Hazard. It is. Oh my god, what a clip, what a dance. This man can move.
Look at that, man. I mean, it was the TT dance from Twice that they wanted. A real obsession for K-pop in the eMasters camp, and as it just cycles through here, I mean, look at the moves, man. The guy's fluid.
Yeah, for some reason, the first thing that comes to my mind here is the Netflix show Wednesday at the end of that party. That's exactly what Hazard looks like right there. All we need is a little bit of dark makeup.
Yeah, back in black with a vengeance. eMasters getting those wins on the board and making HazzaJC show his stuff for us, and we're quite thankful for it, really, here. But yeah, I mean, another week, another set of clips. Let us know in the comments section below who exactly it is that you think should be running away with it. But that is our time here done in the Sports Center. We're going to be handing it back to our British colleagues to close this one out for you.
Kentucky and Hudson Sports Center.
There we have it. In fact, our American comrades, always a fan favorite, I think, as well. Yes. Their involvement in Clip of the Week. Brilliant to see exactly what it is that they had in store for us there. And even I was involved this time.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You're dancing. I don't know why the Wednesday comment came up. That was a bit weird, but do you know what? I rated the dancing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was fairly decent. I looked like a bit of a worm, I think, with some of the movement there. Not quite getting it down on the 2x speed to sort of, I guess, swiftly have that dance dispatched and ready for the episode, of course. But yeah, now moving into our final game, the Tuesday game, one of the matches that we would be casting. Now, of course, the amount of fixtures played on the Tuesday has been cut down to just a singular one because HSD have withdrawn from the competition. And the one that we have for you is WhoCars versus eMasters.
Yeah, exactly. This matchup, I'm going to be honest, Hazza, is quite an interesting one for me. Obviously, straight away, you're going to be favouring WhoCars after the fiery start that they've had with the additions of Vac and Chihuahua. But I think for eMasters and the way they've actually kind of progressed through this split, they've came into their own, and I think this is a real tester for how good this roster actually is.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, they beat HSD, who were looking downtrodden at this point in time already before they have eventually left us, unfortunately. F's in the chat for HSD. It's really sad to have seen them go. But yeah, at that point in time, they had very much had the wind taken out of them, I think it's fair to say. While you can still give a lot of credit to eMasters, HSD looked incredibly one-dimensional in that game, really not doing too much. I think as well, we heard that they had sort of stopped practicing and doing scrims and sort of preparing for these games in the anticipation that they wouldn't be playing any longer. For eMasters, all of the practice that they've done has just been tailored to setting this roster up rather than really giving them too much depth on any specific map. It's getting that map pool up to speed, the new additions of Dutchy and Rex, making sure that, you know, they have something to offer us in the first place and that they're not just going to fall flat on the mark instantly.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that we have to say about this matchup specifically, this is 4th versus 5th in the standings, Hazza. Obviously, again, I do favour WhoCars coming in towards this one, Hazza. But as for how this is going to be, I mean, if eMasters could pull off some sort of, I guess, underdog story, they could place some playoff hopes for the rest of this season.
Yeah, they definitely could. You got to be looking at the head-to-head results as well when you end up calculating what playoffs ends up being. Coalesce sort of in and amongst the mix as well, but with a team like Petits Bouffons also just hanging on the edges of playoffs, and WhoCars as well. Like there's just probably too many teams, I think, right now that are competitive enough to be securing a top 4 spot for either eMasters or Coalesce to go through. But in terms of what I've seen from them so far, I have been thoroughly impressed. I was highlighting Bully as one of those standout players, and we got that sort of secondary interview from him last week as well. But the calls for Transformer on their defender side have been really good, and what the reads look like for WhoCars specifically. And I mean, you mentioned this before, it's the additions of Vac and Chihuahua which have really galvanized what they already had. But in terms of what they already had, I've also been impressed with Radsky and the calling that he has provided for them. And I think that the narrative I've been trying to drive as much as possible throughout this split is that while you have 2 very successful players with a lot of experience, it is this Danish core which holds the team together. And a lot of the success that they find in the maps that they end up playing heavily relies on the performance of, you know, this existing core. And I think right now, against an eMasters team where perhaps there is a difference in quality between the two, this is a perfect time for them to really demonstrate how exactly, you know, good they are at this level.
Yeah, exactly. And you think towards that last split, WhoCars might have not had the performance that they wanted, but they've galvanised with this little bit, or I'll say little bit, this extra firepower that they've had. And I mean, this Danish core has really proven themselves and came back to answer maybe some critique that they had from that last split, Hazza.
Yeah, there's been some mental stuff done with them behind the scenes as well that we need to be commenting on, which I think is quite important. As well, of course, you have to be thinking about this core, and then the 2 additions fulfilling very set roles, the Duelist and the Sentinel, and the iconic playstyle of Chihuahua as well, locking down the flank. So, I mean, really, yeah, it is this group of players that you expect to be doing the most for them. What are you anticipating the scoreline to look like here, Cairo?
I don't necessarily know about the scoreline. I'd probably, if I were to guess, I would say a 2-0 to WhoCars.
We're going to be trading off of the previews now, moving into our next bonus segment, our final bonus segment. And this one's a little bit different. Usually we do Team of the Week, but this time around, we're going to be delivering you something, a halfway point from which we can work.
Hazza and Cairo's Team of the Split so far.
I hope everyone enjoyed the new rendition of Team of the Split so far. I know you have like Team of the Season in FIFA. I didn't want to go so far as to say that we had a team of the entirety of the split. So far is placed there with a very heavy asterisk. But I'll let you open things up, Cairo. We got 2 picks each in terms of who we think are going to be the players to watch who've put in a good performance so far in the split. And you can open the scoring with your first choice, which is Mystic.
Yeah, I mean, Mystic has been my pick. A player that has been up towards the higher end as a controller in terms of ECS and stats, has been fragging out consistently, having a map which has been a clip farm for him. But something that we have to be saying about that is maybe not been playing up against the best of teams. WhoCars obviously been the biggest test for this roster, but even at that, they were able to frag out. I think FOKUS coming in towards this matchup is going to be a real test for him if he can keep up that fragging power.
Yeah, it definitely will be, but Mystic as well is a player that brings a lot of experience to the roster. You've got to be considering the passive impact that he has inside the server in terms of the mental game as well. We spoke with Forrest on one of the interviews we've done here on the Scoreboard, and he said about maintaining those levels, and I'm sure that Mystic is pivotal in his involvement with that kind of thing, alongside Enzo perhaps as a secondary caller. So our second pick, or your second pick here that we're going to be going with, is in fact Waddle.
Yeah, exactly. It's the player that has swapped out purple for, and you know something? I really like this pickup. Maybe not the most explosive starts to the season, but certainly has been growing more and more in confidence and in terms of the quality of performances that they've been putting in. Always good with the util, always ready to support the team, but not only that, help out in the fragging department as well, Hazza.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think this is a player which we've got to just be keeping an eye on as he grows into the season more and more. And by the time we reach playoffs, I have no idea what iteration of Waddle it is exactly that we're going to get. I've been thoroughly impressed with him as well. He would have been one of my picks if you hadn't already selected him. But the first one I'm going to go with is Vac on WhoCars. I think he's just offered them so much in the duelist role. I really like seeing him play, how as well WhoCars like to set him up to go and take these more aggressive fights. I think you see quite a lot on the defender's side of their icebox. He'll do that, and it's reflected similarly to how Gambit would try and put, you know, Defo in aggressive positions at times. And I think it suits them really well. Mishu as well then can drop into a more flexible role, which I think also, it just pads out the roster more than anything else. And the guy gave me a really good Guardian clip for the show reel, so I'm not complaining.
No, 100%. I mean, Vac has just added to that firepower that WhoCars already had. And now, as you said, the roster looks that little bit more, I don't know, it's got a lot more firepower towards it anyway. And Vac has been able to punish time and time again, especially against teams who have found themselves lower in the standings toward below WhoCars.
Yeah, it's definitely refined the roster a lot. You have to think about the experience and the amount of contribution that's been made to, you know, galvanizing this roster, like we said earlier on, revolutionizing their thought, the other players being receptive to it. That's a whole big conversation to be had, but one where Vac sits at the forefront of it. My outside choice as my second pick, I'm going to be going with Bully. You just absolutely can't hate the guy. I think that he's had some really impressive performances in games that we've seen so far, even results which weren't going eMasters' way, just being that consistent player across the board, which is maybe a critique that people had of him previous, not being able to show the same kind of consistency across a lot of maps. But yeah, really nothing to turn your nose up at as well. A player that was touted, much like Anguis, to be climbing that ladder through Beacon and joining up in Polaris sooner rather than later. Perhaps the jump made earlier than expected when you consider human tripwires, and then sort of shifting off a lot of the dead weight, I guess you could say, with the previous roster that they had, bringing people in. Devo much being of the mindset that he'd rather play alongside a group of friends. And I mean, Bully is a welcome addition to that.
Yeah, I have to agree. And not only that, though, Bully might not be as explosive as Anguist has, but one thing that I have to say is that Bully is a really good foundation to build the rest of the roster upon, and it has been proven that time and time again for them.
Yeah, he certainly has. So those are all of our standards picks done. We always like to do a silly little pick as well, but this time around, and with the influence of Cairo, we've decided to go for you, the viewer at home. Thank you so much to everyone that's been supporting the scoreboard religiously week on week. I feel like we've built a really nice community around the Northern European region in general and Polaris. I think it's quite tight-knit. It's almost a family in some senses, that everyone's in the same plight together in a way to make sure that this region doesn't go unnoticed. I've heard and I've seen all of the comments around of people saying, oh, you know, I wasn't too interested in Polaris before, but you guys have actually, you know, helped me be glued to my screen week on week. And I really appreciate it. Like, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, the amount of effort and stuff that I put in behind the scenes to get all this stuff set up, like week on week, to have people respond to it in such a brilliant way, like it honestly means the world, and I can't thank you enough for it.
Yeah, definitely. You deserve most of the plaudits for this, Hazza. My beautiful face. The other plaudits, I'm kidding on. But no, definitely, you put in a lot of effort for this, and definitely hats off to you for week in, week out doing that. And also, I think like the whole of Northern Europe deserve like a little pat in the back for being able to, I guess, pick up and support the region as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's their card, not mine, right? We're not here to be celebrating my success, but everything that the viewers offered. The memes as well. You can see we've got the next in line lockdown there and the Polvi bit alongside the Giga Chad with the mirror. So yeah, thanks to everyone who's sort of been supporting, been kicking around. It means a lot, and we will keep on making these episodes for you as long as we are here. So with that being said, we now return back to the desk as we usually do to sign this one off. Cairo, any closing thoughts before we end this halftime special?
Yeah, I mean, we're now getting in towards the interesting end of the season. Those playoff spots all up for grabs, and obviously the definition of that season is probably going to be the most exciting, especially this mini league that's coming in, that we're coming into between FOKUS, Apeks, and Petits Bouffons.
Yeah, definitely an exciting run of games to keep your eyes on. There'll be watch parties on the Tuesdays as well. At least there'll be a watch party on the Tuesday for the other people that are going to be covering it, right? The ones that are doing it while we're absent, away and unavailable to be doing it this time around. But we hope you guys have enjoyed this pre-recorded episode either way. We will see you again next week on Tuesday, twitch.tv/HazzaJC_. All of the links will be in the description below. You can follow both of our socials as well, and twitch.tv/ValorantLeague_NE for the Monday fixtures that I'll be taking you through. With that being said, I've been HazzaJC, joined alongside Cairo for another episode of The Scoreboard. We hope you have enjoyed, and we'll see you soon.